Okay. So the Trump administration has basically said that they want to go forward with full UFO disclosure. What does this mean for us? How is life going to change? Let's unpack it. Hi, my name is Llewellyn Devereaux. Welcome to Aldi Mastery, where we unpack economics, business, and everything forward-thinking frontier knowledge. So, as I've said to you right now, the Trump administration has basically said they want to obviously go ahead with UFO disclosure. And for the most part, this has kind of gone, people have kind of mentioned it here and there. The news outlets have kind of mentioned it. But for the most part, it seems like it's been blue ticked. Okay. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what does this mean for us going forward? What is life going to be like for us as people going forward? So ultimately, let's jump into this. Hence why I figured, we're going to call this economics of UFO disclosure, because we need to figure out what is going to happen to us. But firstly, let's go backwards. Let's just go back and understand, okay, cool, where does this whole thing of UFOs come from? We've always been talking about this thing for many years. UFOs, unidentified flying objects, okay? But for the most part, this whole thing started last week when Obama was interviewed, and he basically said that, well, this is what he said. Let's go into it.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the president of the United States.
Okay, so he obviously said the whole thing about aliens are real, and it was a big thing to the internet, and it went viral, right? It went crazy because you have a sitting president or a former sitting president of the United States sitting there telling us that aliens are real. If anyone knows, it's him, right? So, but then obviously Trump was then asked about this on the plane. I don't know where he was going, but the reporters asked him, and this is what he had to say.
Barack Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
So aliens are real.
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
Well, if the president can declassify anything that he wants to, so if you want to make an announcement.
I may get him out of trouble by declassifying.
And yeah, this is Trump, right? This is Trump. And then they went further to say that now they're going ahead with full UFO disclosure, because obviously, as a sitting president, you have access to intelligence, you know what I mean? But for the most part, this whole thing has really been a shakeup, right? Because you need to understand that the whole phenomenon of aliens and extraterrestrials has been moving around in life for a very long time. And everyone has been wondering, is this thing real? Is it not real? We've had UFOs coming and going. We've had things happening. We've had, movies being shot. It's almost like we've been prepared for many years, right? And it's interesting because even Ronald Reagan had a post, not a post, let me not say a post, didn't exist at the time, but he had a whole speech at the UN where he mentioned something about aliens unifying us as people in terms of working towards peace. That's what he had to say.
Humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside.
So how crazy is that, right? So the thing is now is that we have been almost seemingly being prepared for this moment to happen in our lives. We have had, as I said, UFOs coming from, we have had movies from E.T., we've had Transformers, we've had Close Encounters of a Third Kind, the fourth kind, and everything has basically been happening since, I think, the 1947 crash in Roswell, that basically where apparently the US government went and retrieved a craft that kind of crashed there, and they retrieved beings that from another planet, right? And so these beings have been coming to our planet since the time we became nuclear, right? It's been a lot of work going into the situation, especially with people like whistleblowers like Stephen Greer, who's gone in and had this whole disclosure discourse, talking to the fact that we need to let this situation out, we need to let information out, and it's very interesting. And the thing is, people underestimate how much is going to change our lives going forward, right? And it actually became a big thing, because the question we have to ask ourselves is, where does the moon come from? The moon is not turning on an axis, it's there by itself. We don't know what happens on the dark side of the moon. What's happening in Antarctica. We're not allowed to go there. There's a treaty that has been signed. We've heard, videos, and we've seen things about Hitler and the Nazi Germany being able to go to Antarctica back in the day. They were retrieving some things. We've seen too many things happening about these alien retrievals, right? So a lot has been happening, and everything has been happening since we became nuclear, because apparently us being nuclear, it forces, or basically because of interdimensional travel, time and whatnot, it kind of creates a rift, and it creates problems for these aliens in other dimensions, apparently. And so the question is, what has been happening? Where are we going? What does this mean? And so for me, it has been a very interesting thing, because I myself have seen a UFO when I was living in Cape Town a couple of years back, and that blew my mind, because dude, it's all great and fair being a conspiracy theorist and listening to conspiracies and speculating, but when you see a UFO, this thing actually, let me just show you, guys. That thing went one way.
Now it's going backwards.
Oh,
But why?
dude, I'm about some shit right now. You're recording it, right?
Yeah.
Like zooming in.
Yeah.
Guys, we're seeing some shit.
Where'd it go?
Dude,
Are they?
dude, I don't think you understand what we're seeing right now. That thing is landing. Oh, no, Joe, it's coming down.
Oh my god, it is! It's gone.
Okay, so now, we've seen this. Dude, I saw this in real time, and people go talk about, oh no, it's a drone. No, 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 no. That was not a drone. That was not a drone at all. Because I have a drone, and that was way too far for that to be a drone. That shit was real. So the main thing right now that I remember was the fact that I remember an interview with Bob Lazar and Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how he used to work at this place called S4 in Area 51 in the Nevada desert, right, where he basically was hired to reverse engineer these crafts, right, because they had anti-gravitational propulsion systems, and he was basically a person who was very big on propulsion, right? So he was a person who was working with these crafts that they had basically reverse engineered for the US government. Remember the thing about the military, they always say whatever you can imagine, the military is 30, 40, 50 years ahead. So we need to understand that this is technology that is out of this world, right? And so he was talking about how, these things are hovering. They've got lights beneath them because of energy that they're exerting. He was talking about uranium-215, an element that kind of helps create its own gravity. He basically said that when you look at this craft from the bottom, you basically cannot see the top, because what gravity does is it bends time and space. So you're seeing around the craft, right? So hence why these things can make these kind of maneuvers where they can go one direction, the other direction. It's a whole other thing on its own. But for the most part, Einstein he had a perfect quote that said that two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Because think about it. Why would God, in all of his, infinite wisdom, whether you believe in God or not, create all of this for us? Like, why would we have a front row seat to the entire universe, and then we're the center of it, and we're the only ones that exist? That doesn't make sense, right? So anyway, so what happens when the day of disclosure happens? What happens after? What happens actually on the day that we're told? Let's unpack that. So two things are going to happen on the day that we finally hear and we accept. Because the thing is, unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be files being released, or there's going to be evidence, or potentially there might be an alien that comes through, whether it's a gray, whatever species that exists, there's going to be some sort of disclosure that's going to happen. But I think for the most part, we're probably going to have an alien representative coming and saying, hey guys, you aren't alone, you have been alone for many years. And we're going to have to accept one cold fact. The fact is, number one, we're not alone. Right? And the second question that's going to come from there is, where does that leave us on the food chain? Like, how high? Because we've been living in privilege, knowing that we are the highest species or the being on this planet, right? But the moment now we know that there is another being on this planet, or other beings in the universe, where does that put us on the intergalactic food chain, right? And the question we'll go to bed that night just thinking to ourselves, or asking ourselves, are we safe? How intelligent are we? Are we just dumb apes? Where are we in the intelligence pool of everything? How safe are we? Can we be attacked? How protected are we? Do we have defense systems? Do we need to call the Avengers? I don't know. But this is the main point I'm trying to say to you, is that it seems to me that we have been prepared psychologically, mentally, emotionally through movies for many years. Look at all the movies. There's always Steven Spielberg in the movies. He knows some shit we don't know about, but for the most part, this is a real thing. So, but now, the question we have to ask ourselves right now is, where are we going the day after disclosure? What does this mean for our world? And this is the most important part that we have to go into, is that what does it mean for our world the day after disclosure? Okay, because understand something, everything is going to be changing. Everything's going to be changing. Whatever you think you know is going to be changing. But let's go into what is going to be changing, right? The first thing, education. Now, we know physics as we know physics, but for the most part, when we start working with anti-gravitational propulsion systems or technology that can create its own gravity, what does that do to Newton's first, second, third, and law, third, or first and second and third law of motion, right? What does that do for physics? What does that do for history, right? If we have to find out that Adam and Adam and Eve were not real, or we must find out the Bible was written by the people, or where the religions come from, everything has to change. The concept of religion has to change, because now the question is, if God made us as our image, who made the aliens if they do exist? What does that mean for our world? And these are things we have to start unpacking. History, like I said, is going to change, because it means that now we're going to be able to have some sort of an idea of who built the pyramids. We have pyramids in the world right now. We have no idea where they come from. Okay? History is going to change. Education is going to change. What we taught is going to change, The fourth thing is that now are we going to moving into a UN situation where we're going to have a one world government? I mean, they've been going on for a long time about the New World Order, whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, everything is going to change. Are we going to have one leader? Are all the governments of the world going to unite? Are we going to settle our differences? What's going to be happening? Are we going to be finally figuring out who the world owes? Because apparently the world is in trillions and trillions of dollars worth of debt. But who do we owe? Maybe now we're going to find out who we owe. Are we going to find out about what happened on the moon? Did we really go to the moon? Are we going to find out? Do we have a flat Earth or a round Earth? Are we going to find out all these things that we've been questioning is going to change? Other things going to be changing after that is going to be, what is work? What is the purpose of life going to be? Are we going to be going to work the next day as if nothing happened? No, you can't go to work the next day, because, hello, there's aliens. Because the thing is, what's going to happen now is that, are the aliens going to be, have they been living on the planet with us? Have they been hiding from us? Are they shapeshifters? Are they going to be going to work with us? Are we going to be accepting some Men in Black situation where there's going to be other species around us? Are we going to be scared? Are there going to be zombies? What's going to be happening? We don't know. But this is important, because we hearing stories all the time about civilizations that are existing in caves, underwater, hidden from plain sight. Because understand something, that the governments have gone through tremendous amounts of work to keep this from us. I mean, it takes a lot of work to disclose or to hide this kind of information for 70, 80 odd years from billions and billions of people. You know what I mean? And so these are things that I just want to understand. Like, from there, what's going to happen to things like defense, right? Where are we going to find ourselves when it comes to defense? Are we protected? Are we safe? Do we have weapons that we don't know about? When it comes down to disclosure of ammunition, how ahead is the governments? How ahead is Russia? How ahead is China? How ahead is the US? You know what I mean? Like, this is important things for us to understand. You know what I mean? But for the most part, it seems as though it is going to be the most important revelation of our time. It is going to be the important event of our time, because once again, we're going to be going into biblical aspects. We're going to be going into language. Is our communication going to evolve? Are we going to evolve as human beings? Are they going to be sharing information with us that is going to help humanity evolve, right? What's going to happen to how we move around transportation? Are we going to be now finally being letting go of oil, in terms of combustion engines? Because now, once we have gravitational propulsion systems, we're looking into what Star Wars was putting forward, or levitating cars? Where are we going? And so everything is going to change. The economies, as we know, are going to change. In fact, they've actually had an article the one time about how they were scared that once there's UFO disclosure, the financial markets are going to collapse. Because think about it right now. Money now becomes an arbitrary construct, because now, are we now working with a single currency? Are we now part of Intergalactic Alliance, Star Wars, or whatever you want to call it, or Jupiter Ascending, where now there's economies outside the planet? Like, where are we going with this entire scenario? So there's a lot to unpack. And I think for me, I want to leave you with that, because the main thing is that everything that we know is going to change, and it potentially, not potentially, it will be the single greatest event of our time or our generation, according to just what I think, just what I see and what I perceive, right? Because this is basically what happens with, like, the There was this model called the Strauss-Howe model that spoke about every single 80 years there's going to be a cataclysmic event that happens, right? So every 80 years something happens. So everything is divided into four groups of turnings, right? So they talk about, just Google it for yourself. I'm not going to go into I'll go into another video another time. But for the most part, what they're saying is that every 80 years something great happens that resets life as we know it. And for the most part, we know, for the most part, for the many years, life has kind of gone into a flat state of affairs. Technology has not been evolving. We've been staying in the same place for a long time. And for the most part, the last time we had a big moment in history was when we dropped the nuclear weapon in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? And this is now 80 years from the fact, and this is probably going to be the thing that's going to be resetting our markets, resetting our institutions, resetting everything, because now we are looking towards leaders that are going to be helping us or leading us to a better future. But we need a catalyst. And the last catalyst, like I said, was us dropping the nuclear weapon on Hiroshima, or not us, but the US. And that ended the World War II, and everything restates at the time. We launched the UN, was launched after that. They launched the IMF. Every institution was launched after 1947. But now, 8 years later, we probably have the single greatest moment in our lives that is going to happen, that is going to determine the next 80, 100, whatever you want to call it, history going forward. And I think this is going to be very important, and we should all pay attention. This is Aldi Mastery. Thank you for joining us. Boom.